Yes, welcome to week 5 and in BA 540. We're kind of fast approaching the end of the road here, so to speak. And but we're also moving a little bit away from discussions. This week is there is actually no discussions, so that kind of works out for everybody. But you need to be working on that blood bananas case that's individual. So what I'm going to do is take a little bit of time here and kind of go through that aspect of it. This is where you're going to be posting that case. I did just as a word also on the exam. Just make sure that you're actually clicking on this link right here in the course to take the exam. This one right here. If you want to, you can actually bring this one up first to make sure everything's working with Lockdown Browser, but you definitely want to be accessing your test from here, not from any of the links like inside the calendar, and like these on the side over here, these calendar reminders or the to-do list. Any of these things, you don't want to be clicking on those to access that exam. Apparently there's some issues with those links and how they react with Lockdown Browser. So I just wanted to point that out. Now let's take a look at our case here, and I'm going to swap screens here. Just, 1 second, and then we'll all right, let me minimize that. There we go. So, and we'll go ahead and I'll take a, just kind of run you through this PowerPoint that's actually posted. And many of you may have already seen it, but we're just going to take I'm going to do a very, very quick review of it. So this is basically, this is, some of you may have seen it in 520. But this is when you're doing a case, the case actually basically a couple of things, especially in ethics. Cases have multiple meanings, and really you want to elicit some debate. Okay, so I'm not gonna, there's not a right or wrong answer, just how you justify it. So when we're looking at ethics here, remember, you may not have the same answer. And you'll see that next week when you're tackling the team case, that it is definitely not, it's not always going to be the right answer. I'm looking at how basically I'm looking at how you prove your point. Can you sell me and prove to me that your point is correct? And there could be more than one correct proven answer. So even if you're discussing it with a colleague and you have a difference of opinion, that's going to be perfectly normal. The way you look at this as being a consultant, and a consultant is going to look at a problem several different ways. I, as a consultant, may look at things differently than you as a consultant, and you may have different options. Does that make yours less right? Absolutely not. So you want to kind of make sure that you're kind of flowing through those aspects and just understanding there is no right answer. Okay. When you're doing an MBA case, especially, these are going to be more complicated cases. So what we're looking at here is you're going to have a bunch of things that may include what like Dr. Sharp pointed out was noise, okay, or it's going to be fervent or adamant testimony by some individual involved in the case, kind of like our politics today, where people are very passionate about one idea or another, but realistically that may not be an issue. It may not be what you're looking for. So you have to sort through that and kind of discard those things. Also, you're going to also have to infer some things. Okay, and you definitely need to do some more research. So some things you're going to need to deduce. Okay, you're going to have to take a look at things just like a consultant would. In both of these instances, it's not going to be something that you can pinpoint a lot of times. you're going to have a lot of extraneous information. You're going to have a lot of stuff that has to be deduced or inferred. It's not just going to be black and white. The other portion of this is nonlinear structure. In other words, it's not going to walk you through this. This is going to be, especially in the MBA level. Now, you may have had a case or two or three in your bachelor's program. The bachelor's program is designed, in those cases, they're a little more clear cut. They're a little more linear, in other words. And here, these cases, I can assure you, are not linear. The information that you're going to be gathering from that is going to be all over the case. So you're going to need to pull that out. Usually when I do one of these is I'll sit down and I'll read through the case first without taking any notes. Then I'll read through the case again and take through notes of what I think are major points. And I write down everything. And then I start to, then after that, I kind of sort through really what's important. And pulling those things together. So you're going to have to look at this as a nonlinear function. So the next one we've got is that, as soon as my PowerPoint here works. There we go. So this is kind of just like I said, this is how I work through it. Is identifying those problems, performing an analysis. So what I do is write down every problem I see. And is it related? Is it not related? Is it something that, as we get down in here, this is where we kind of perform that. When I'm performing that analysis, that's where I weed things out and go, no, that's not really important. No, that's just kind of, that one here might be an issue, but it's obviously not the major issue what we're looking at. And kind of look at, and I usually divide it up into primary, secondary issues. Then I'm going to develop basically a course of action, a COA. So I'm looking at how we can move things forward. In other words, where should this company move towards, or this agency or whatever. It's, and this is how I'm going to make that. And then you make a recommendation. So how to get to that course of action. Okay, identifying some of these problems, you may have to really, this is a big one for anybody. I've got a couple who were in my 520 class, and you heard me talk many times about digging deeper. Okay, especially in these cases are not going to be on the surface. You're going to have to dig, like you're digging for roots. Okay, so you're going to have to really get down there and go beyond what the surface problem is. For example, a surface problem is you've got a lot of employee discord. Okay, well, that employee discord can be caused by a number of things. So you may have to dig down to dig down as the consultant. You're digging down to, okay, it's the leader's leadership style that is not meshing with and causing all this dissension. So the root cause is the leadership behavior, not the actual fact that the employees are up in arms. So you got to dig down deeper, go deeper, and then write out a problem statement. I always find that as being helpful. Often you're going to have to, with attempting answering the questions that are at the end. Now there may be those questions are going to be usually a couple of different questions, and you're going to really kind of figure out what you're going to do. They should lead you to problems or questions, themes, all those types of things. And they may end up causing you to go back and having to reread it again because you're not sure where those issues are. Take some time with this. It's not an easy thing. Okay. So the next one would be performing your analysis. Are there strengths and weaknesses? Okay. Is there, you're going to have to basically extrapolate some external research. You're going to have to see what else is already done. Okay. Who else out there did some research into the same situation or the same problem that you have. You may have to include a financial analysis. Typically with these ethics cases, you're not going to need to do that. Those are going to be more, these here are going to be more along the lines of ethical types of questions, which are more qualitative. And the last one is you may end up combining seemingly unrelated facts to pull it together. And there may be one fact in the early on, there may be another one in the other later on that you seem they're related, but then they end up in the end as you're doing your analysis going, yeah, I really need to pull these two strings together because that's exactly the way it works. You need to make sure your course of action is going to be viable. You'll hear me say that quite a bit. Use that term as I grade. Can you actually do it? Is it something that could do it? You also are going to need to look at long, short, and medium range strategies to get to that course of action. And then they should include all resources. Okay, so what's it going to take to make this work? Maybe some plant and equipment, maybe R&D, maybe new employees, maybe training, maybe marketing, etc. Make that recommendation, okay? And then relook at your recommendation and see if there's any weaknesses in it. How can you make that better? The summary, okay? The summary is going to be a short and sweet, nuts and bolts type of thing. You know, bring it all together. You don't have to restate everything throughout the case. Just give me the highlights and then focus in on your course of action and how you're going to get to that action. You know, and this is, you have to choose an action, make a choice. As I always used to tell my management, my team, make a choice. I don't care which it is, but make a choice, commit to it, move on. Okay. So if anybody runs into any problems over this week, please feel free to reach out. I hope this little bit of a recap helps you out, and I look forward to seeing those cases early next week.